Good day, and welcome to A Place Called Through Inspirational Moments. I am your host, Evangelist Patricia Wade Goings. I am the host of A Place Called Through, where we broadcast live from WYTV7 Community Broadcasters Network. A Place Called Through Inspirational Moments. It's just that, inspirational moments to help encourage you, to inspire you. You know, we all go through situations in life. Some are greater than others. Some may be even more challenging to some, and to some, it may not be so horrible. But, you know, the fact is that we all go through something horrific once in a while in our lives. So that's why we share these stories to help motivate you, to encourage you, and to share with others, because your testimony may just be that one to help inspire someone else. So today we welcome as our guest, Mr. Keith West, who has a story of inspiration, of going from the streets, living the life of imprisonment, and coming out and now being successful. So his story begins from the streets now to the boardroom. Welcome to A Place Called Through Inspirational Moments. We welcome you, Mr. West, today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure to have you as our guest today as we begin to share your inspirational story here on A Place Called Through. So we noted earlier as we were speaking with you, you know, early in your childhood, there were many horrific situations that you had to encounter, situations that you endured. So you want to take us to about maybe when you were getting ready to enter into your teens. What was your family life like at that point?
Growing up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, with my mother and stepfather, brothers and sisters. My stepfather was very physically abusing us. Like I said, we couldn't, if we didn't bring home A's, straight A's on our report cards, we would get beatings. If he came in and he put his hands on the wall and it was dust on the wall, he would beat us, you know, and after a while, my brothers and sisters were old enough to leave. But me and my mother decided to still stay until finally one day when I guess we can say that enough was enough with her, she finally backed me and her up and we moved back to New York with my grandmother.
And so your stepfather was abusive to you. And of course, from what you're indicating, there was that fear factor with your mom, which would be a normal reaction. Mm-hmm. But how were your siblings, you know, relating to the fact that you were now being abused by your stepfather?
Well, they had endured a lot before, like at hand too, with him. And my oldest sister, she left with her boyfriend, who's her husband of 35 years now. They left. Then my oldest brother, he left. They couldn't take it no more. They just couldn't take it. And right now I understand it. Back then I was too young to understand it. Why y'all left me, but I was the baby of the family. So when mother said whatever my mother told me to do, that's what I did. But yeah, but my mother finally, I thank God that she finally said enough was enough and she got out of it.
Because she couldn't take that abuse that I'm sure was given to her as well as
yes, she was. It wasn't just the kids; it was her too being abused too. You know, when you're in a domestic violence situation, a lot of domestic violence people believe that it's their fault that it's happening to them, or they're less than, or there's no one else there to fight for me. This is the only life I know, you know. And I'm let you know, like men get abused too. Like it's not just women that being abused. Like, you know, you have some men that be abused by women and they don't know how to get out of it. You know?
Absolutely. I do know that men are abused as well as women. Alarmingly, those numbers are escalating for men being abused by women now, because it is just the belief that it is always only the female that gets abused, whereas it kind of like slides under the rug that, okay, the male gets abused as well.
Yes.
So we do believe, and we do know for facts do prove that, yes, men are often abused as well. So, you know, being that you were already in a horrific situation, not certain as to where to turn or who to turn to, and even for that factor, whom you should be trusting at this point because of the fact that you were abused, you're feeling all alone. So what happened to you after you relocated?
After relocated back to New York, we moved in with my grandmother and my two uncles. It was fun being with my siblings again. The fear of being with the stepfather, the fear was gone. It's like a new beginning had started, and I was free now. There was no more worrying about me bringing home straight A's, even though I was doing straight A's anyway. And then my mother, she had to get a job. So that left me with freedom to come out of school, go to the house, meet new friends. Because my stepbrothers from the stepfather that I had, they lived, his children lived up in New York anyway. So his ex-wife and them already had got away from him. And then when I got up there, my little brother, Brian, God bless his soul, he took me around to all his friends and all that. And they started getting to know me. And I felt happy that now I got friends. I didn't have to hide, but I got into a situation where I had a child at the age of 15. I was just 2 years coming into New York. I met a young lady, and she was promiscuous. I didn't know anything about sex. No, truth be told, she taught me about sex. But we had a child together, and I was going to school. I was working, but that money wasn't good enough for me. I had to step up and be a man at an early age, and it took me to a different direction. It took my life into a whole different direction.
And so, because now you've relocated with your mom, and now you're being introduced to new people who have new habits. You would say, I guess, that knew a little bit more knowledge about street living than what you were accustomed to, or that you have maybe even not even had heard of. So now here you are in a situation, nothing about sex. And so now at the age of 15, you've got an experience with sex, and also now being a father yourself. Yes. So the people that you were introduced to, they were already engaged in activities that got you caught up in situations, correct?
I can say yes and no to that. Reason I can say yes to it was like I tried to fit into that society, that part of life. Like, they didn't force me to do anything. And then like with my mother always working, I knew what time she got in. So therefore my grandmother, she's upstairs. So my uncles and them, they're doing their thing. They're grown. Nobody's really watching me now. Okay, my sister, my baby, no, I can't, she's the third, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, she's the fourth oldest out of the 5. She's the one who introduced me to marijuana. Like, she was the first one to give me marijuana, like at the age of 14. And I'm like, wow. Like, okay. And then my friends, they were drinking back then. And I'm like, I was just coming into a world where I knew nothing about, but just wanting to be accepted. I followed them. I became a follower. I didn't become a leader. I became a follower. And I followed down a wrong path, which I'm not ungrateful for that path because it has made me who I am today. But sticking to that, like, I followed a certain pattern because I was free. I didn't have to worry about being beat or nothing, because I promised myself I would never allow anyone. After we left North Carolina, I decided, like, I would never let no one ever touch me again. Never. No, I will not be beat again. I will not let nobody. And that's a whole nother story.
That started a whole new chapter. Okay,
Yes.
well, we're going to take a break for a quick commercial. and then we'll come back with you again and we'll pick it up from where we're leaving off at.
Okay.
And again, I am the host, Patricia Wade Goings, the host of A Place Called Through, where we're broadcasting from WYTV7 Community Broadcasting Network. Stay tuned. We'll be right back shortly after this commercial break.
Happy is an intentional and lifelong journey, but it's hard to change and grow towards higher levels of happy without knowing where you're starting from. Our happy quiz puts a starting pin on the map to your happy living and provides additional guidance and motivation along the way. Just go to happyliving.com and take the happy quiz to get started on your road to happy.
Hi, and welcome back to A Place Called Through Inspirational Moments. Again, I am your host, Evangelist Patricia Wade Goings. And today we are so honored to have as our guest, Mr. Keith West, who has been sharing his story of inspiration. You know, sometimes growing up as children, we endure some real challenging times. And sometimes we can't even explain it. We can't even express it. So he has been through, you know, an abusive situation early in life that led him into some other patterns. He was introduced into a sexual relationship. He fathered a child at the age of 15. And so now we want to continue talking to him about life after that and how he has gone from pretty much the streets to the boardroom now. So, Mr. West, you want to continue talking to us? We've already identified the fact that, yes, you know, you got introduced to, you know, smoking marijuana at the age of 14, had a daughter at 15, but there was some really horrific situations that made you kind of like look at life, okay, where am I going and how am I really going to get here? So talk to us now after the birth of your daughter. What's going on with you? You know, what's going on here?
After the birth of my daughter, after the birth of my son,
I'm sorry, son.
I was still, like I said, I was still going to school and I was working at KFC. That was one of my first jobs in New York. And I got approached by a guy that was always on the block in front of my door. And he told me, yo, if we can just stand here and look out for the police, I'll give you $40,000. I like, what? You give me what? He said, yeah. He said, I'll give you 40 grand a week if you just stand here and just let us know when the police come. Do you know what $40,000 look like to a 15-year-old kid? But I took it. I took it. Then I was asked to sell drugs. I was asked to transport drugs. I was asked to do other things, you know, and that money was coming quick and fast. And then when the crack epidemic hit New York, that money doubled. That money doubled up. And in a short span of time, I had never been arrested. I had got arrested for the first time at the age of 16. They gave me 5-year probation. 3 months later, I was right back in front of the same judge with the same charge, same drug charge. And he was like, oh, you thought I was playing with you? And he sent me away for 4.5 to 9 years. Out of that, you know, I went into prison. I went to a state facility in New York State. I was only 18 then, and I'm in there with a bunch of grown men. And I fought everybody that came near me. Anybody that wanted to even looked at me wrong, I fought them. But it took these two old men named JR and Pops, I'll never forget them two, where it was like, you don't need to do all of this. Your name is already out there. Like, we know who you are. We know where you come from. They're like, listen, all we want to do is do our time and go home. Ain't nobody gonna bother you no more. Nobody, you done did what you had to do to show everybody that you're not to be messed with. So I did that. And I came home. I came home on my son's eighth or ninth birthday. I can't remember right now. I think it was his 8th birthday, because I left him when he was 2. Yeah, so he was about 8 years old when I got home. From there, I got married. I had 3 more children, and I turned my life over to God to let, you know, like, it was nothing but him that did what he did, because I had to go through this experience in order to get where I'm at today. I would never think where I would be at today if it wasn't for what I went through. Because I started off playing football. I was in high school sitting, but they wouldn't let me play. They wouldn't let me play football. It was like, these kids they seniors. You're just coming here. But everybody knew I was better than them at that position, at the running back position. I was better than the people that were playing. But that's the first time I think I experienced racism, because they was a bunch of Caucasian kids, and I was a black kid coming from North Carolina that I grew up playing football. I had I loved the sport of football, but they wouldn't let me play. They kept saying, "Oh, you're gonna have to sit here for about another year or two." I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. So I left, and I found the streets. The streets found me, because I had to find a way to take care of my child. And even though my brothers and sisters knew what I was doing, but when I got home, I thank God for my brother, my oldest brother, who grabbed me and was like, "Nah, come here. You're not going back that way." Because I could have got back out and went straight back to the streets, because it was still there. Everything that I left was still right there. But he grabbed me up and was like, "No, let me show you a different life." And he showed me how to drive trucks. And from there, I've never looked back. It's been almost 30, 35 years now. I've never looked back. I haven't been back to prison. I have kept it straight and narrow. I was married for 17 years with 3 beautiful children. Now I've been on my own for the last 10 years. So we divorced. After my mother passed away, we divorced. I tried to commit suicide 3 times. I came out of that. I'm back to my normal self now. I still talk to my doctors, because you need someone to talk to when you go through that. Of losing my best friend was my mother. That was my heart and soul. I lost her. And then a year after that, I lost a 17-year marriage.
So you had gone through so much horrific, things in your life that challenged you, and you losing people that were closest to you. Man. And the one thing that you mentioned, previously, was the fact that your mother actually witnessed you on the corner doing things that, knew that you weren't supposed to do. Yes. But the one thing was that before her passing, she also witnessed the change in you. She got to see the best part of you growing up. So that had to have been really, really joyful for you. And there was a situation where you had mentioned previous as well about your daughter told you to relocate to make that change in your life as well. So even though you were disconnected in so many ways, the family was still pulling you together. And the one thing that really kept you in whole was that you found Christ. And so through it all, as you said, from time to time, we all need someone to talk to know that someone still cares for us, helps us get through all the situations. I always use the term, we all are going through, but what makes it more impactful is the fact that you get through. And so getting through is the significant change that has happened for you. So now you're driving truck, you are successful. So it looks like the clock is winding down, unfortunately, on us. But if you would take maybe a half a second and share with our listeners and our viewers a word of encouragement to someone maybe struggling the same way that you were, or going through something, that may be similar to what you've already experienced. Tell them how you feel that you can help encourage them.
Well, I tell you this, if you are having mental thoughts of hurting yourself, reach out to a teacher, reach out to a professional that will help you. There's a lot of us out here that have connections to people like this, like therapists, doctors, and even if you find yourself going through the criminal justice system, don't think that's the end of your life. That's not the end of your life. That's the beginning. God has removed you from a situation to put you in a place for you to get your mind and your body in touch with him. So therefore, just be encouraged that just because you made a mistake, that's not the end. it's just the beginning to a new life that's ahead of you, long as you want it. We can walk you to it, but you're gonna have to do some of the work. A lot of the work you're gonna have to do. And as a life coach, I know that we integrate groups and stuff like that, and we come together and we build up our Black and brown community, because a lot of us are lost. These kids with this pandemic have been lost, but again, just stay encouraged and know that God is always with you.
All right, it looks like the clock has run out of time on us. And as you just stated, because you make a mistake doesn't mean that you are the mistake. Once again, I thank you for being my guest today on A Place Called Through Inspirational Moments. I am the host, Evangelist Patricia Wade Goings, and we're broadcasting from WYTV7, Community Broadcasters Network. If you've liked this show and you want to be my guest, please reach out to me at area code of 843-608-9744 or area code of 843-812-1958. Please visit the website for upcoming events at www.willpowerthecalltoriseabove.org. We thank you again for being our guest, and we hope that you stay safe throughout this pandemic. Blessings and love to you.